Adam.
I'm Andy.
This is a weekly podcast where we review movies from our movies from our movie blind spots or list of shame.
Yep.
So Monday we talked about The Hustler, and today we're going to talk about the movie we paired it with. And what movie did we pair it with, Andy?
The sequel to The Hustler came out 25 years after The Hustler. It's called The Color of Money.
Did you saw the legs off this thing? It's a table for dwarfs or something.
Come on, fast, Eddie. Let's see some heavy legend action here.
I see 35 balls down there. Not bad, huh? This ain't pool. This is for banging. Straight pool is pool. This is like handball and cribbage or something. Straight pool, you gotta be a real surgeon to get over. It's all finesse. Now everything is 9-ball because it's fast. Good for TV. Good for loud break shot. Oh, well, what the hell? Checkers sells more than chess.
Pretty damn good.
Not bad for a blind man.
Color of Money.
Color of Money, starring Tom Cruise. Obviously, Paul Newman reprises his role as Fast Eddie Felson, although he's not so fast anymore.
Nope.
Little older. It also has Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who we don't see much anymore.
No.
Although I think
I actually looked her up on IMDb because I was trying to figure out what she's been in
she was
lately.
in one of the Marvel Netflix shows, if
Oh.
I'm not mistaken. I don't remember which one. Defenders, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
She was in one of those. Jessica Jones, I don't know, something like that. But so this Color of Money was written by the same guy that wrote The Hustler. We discussed that the last time, that he also wrote Man Who Fell to Earth, which is really weird. But the Color of Money book, and I haven't read any of these novels, I've just seen the movies. The Color of Money book, apparently, basically they just took the title for this 1986 film. It's pretty much completely different. Jackie Gleason might or was talking about maybe reprising his role as Minnesota Fats, but it ultimately didn't happen, and he actually died shortly after this movie was released in 1987. I thought it was funny, first of all, before we kind of dive into the
You thought the whole movie
itself.
was funny?
I thought the movie was hilarious. No, I did. I one thing that I thought was funny is Tom Cruise was born in 1962. Well, 1 year after The Hustler came out, and Paul Newman, or Fast Eddie Felson, makes a comment saying, I've been doing this since before you were born, or I quit playing pool before you were born, or whatever, which is actually very true in real life. I've seen The Color of Money not quite as many times as The Hustler, but I've seen it a few times. I watched it again. I like The Color of Money. To me, it's not one of Scorsese's best movies, but
he also says that himself.
I'm a much bigger Scorsese fan of, like Goodfellas and Casino and things like that. So this is a decent movie to me. It's not amazing. The thing that I enjoy the most about it is, and we'll circle back to this as we kind of wrap up discussion, but the thing I like the most about it is just seeing that character, seeing Eddie Felson again and kind of dropping in on his life. What's he up to now as an old man a quarter century later? What did you think?
I thought this movie was excellent.
Okay.
I really, really
Which
liked this movie.
is impressive because you're not a huge Scorsese guy.
No, not
so
at all.
I'm really happy to hear you at least come around to one of his movies.
I like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's probably my favorite Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
Probably sacrilege to say that. But I thought this was a really good movie. Like, I do think, so we've kind of talked about this, and I don't know if we talked about this on podcasts, but sometimes when there's very elaborate camera moves, it takes me out of the movie.
Yeah.
So same thing with like cinema verite and like kind of the camera shaking a little bit. Those flashy camera moves sometimes, and Scorsese does it with most of his movies. You'll have a shot or two that you kind of hang his hat on. They kind of take me out of the movie, and I think we did talk about that with The Graduate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like when Eddie zoomed in on the that's not the cue ball, but I think the 8-ball you see his reflection.
Yes.
Like that kind of shot takes me out. And there's a shot where he's waiting in line at the pool tournament, and the camera just kind of glides along here while he's waiting in line. Those kind of things just kind of were a little jarring to me. It took me out of the movie, but I really like the movie. I think it's really well directed. I like the way the pool is shot, like of just the black background, and you can see the balls moving. That's something with, The Hustler The Hustler. Yeah, that's the right. That's the name of the
Not
movie.
Hustlers, not The Hustle. The
That's
Hustler.
that's the thing with Hustler is that I feel like the actors couldn't shoot pool very well. So I felt a lot of times the camera was trying to hide what the balls were doing. But in this movie, I felt like we got to see a lot of the action on the table.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that when we did talk about The Hustler, Willie Moscone, who I did talk about, he did a lot of the trick shots
Okay.
where you just see their hands or their
Yeah.
arms. But there are a few scenes in there where Jackie Gleason is doing his own shots, and you can tell that he's
Okay.
doing his own shots. Just like in The Color of Money, there are scenes where Tom Cruise is actually shooting
Yeah.
all of his own shots. But there's definitely scenes where you don't see him actually hit it, or you see him shoot it and the ball goes out of frame,
Yeah.
and you hear it in the pocket, but who knows? It might have missed.
But I thought the way he shot all the pool shots were awesome. I think it was just more interesting and more dynamic way to present them playing pool.
Well, I was wondering how you would feel about the way he shot the pool scenes or the balls going across the table and whatnot. What about when the balls get sped up and they're all just clickety clacking around?
I mean, I feel like, so with The Hustler, when they try to show time by, I thought this one did a really good job of showing the passage of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it borrowed a lot from The Hustler when showing passage of time. But I do like the speed up because I think, we established in there that these games kind of take a long time, or when you're hustling, it could be game after game after game. And I really enjoyed the sped up. I enjoyed him handing over money and then money getting handed back to him.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like maybe if that was done in a movie here in 2020, that'd be cheesy. But for 1986, I kind of say, okay, yeah, that's the story. That's a language of storytelling then. And so I thought it was an interesting way to kind of show that.
We didn't talk much about the Charlie character when we went over The Hustler. Charlie was his partner / manager. In this film, Eddie is now the
Charlie
manager / partner.
What do they call him, like the money horse?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
They call him. There's a nickname one of the pool hall owners gives them, like steak horse. I think.
Steak horse. Yeah.
Something like that. Water horse.
But I find it interesting in this film because in the first film, The Hustler, it's just a relationship between Charlie, who's kind of the wizened old guy who's been there and done that and seen this and tries to rein in Eddie. In this, there's a wrinkle in there, right? He's got the girlfriend that he's got to contend with, and really she's kind of his partner, and he even says that we're partners, right? She kind of takes care of his, other needs, and he takes care of his pool hall and hustling needs, and tells him, where he needs to go. Tom Cruise at this point, he had done, Risky Business and all the right moves and taps and stuff like that. But he wasn't really considered, I don't think, as a serious actor. And I don't even know that he was considered as a serious actor after The Color of Money. He was not nominated for this role. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio was nominated for her role. She did not win. Paul Newman was nominated for Eddie Felson, and he did win. This was his first Oscar win, although weirdly enough,
they'd
given him an honorary Oscar the year before. Yeah. But many people say that this was just kind of a culmination of, okay, you've been doing this, you've been nominated forever, we've never given you anything for this incredible body of work that you've gotten, so now we'll give it to you. But I don't think Tom Cruise was really taken seriously until things like Rain Man and Born on the 4th of July, which came out a few years later. I thought Tom Cruise was fine in this. I think he kind of embodies that stupid, goofy, cocky Vince wearing the T-shirt with Vince on it. And I think Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio does a fine job as well. She's a hustler herself, basically. I mean, she's the one who's kind of tough as nails.
For him,
And she kind of traipses around her hotel room half dressed. She doesn't care.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, but she's just, she's like, I don't care. I mean, the fact that she met Vincent because her and her ex-boyfriend were trying to rob his house rob his parents' house, and that's how they met at the police station. Tells you everything you need to know about that character.
So I wanted to jump in real quick on that.
Sure.
So I agree. I think Paul Newman is awesome in this movie. I like Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Yes.
Tom Cruise, I feel like, is a little miscast. Like, I'm not one of those people that hate Tom Cruise because I've interacted with people that just can't stand him in anything. And I actually enjoy Tom Cruise's performances in most movies. Mm-hmm. This feels a little outside his wheelhouse. And maybe it's because I know him more from his later body of work. but I felt like it could have been, it might have even been better cast with someone else. But he's
I
not.
don't disagree with
it
that.
doesn't distract me from it.
Yeah.
It's a little distracting, but it doesn't take away from the whole movie.
I feel like he is perfectly acceptable in this role. I don't think he's as good as the other two, in my opinion. I don't think he's out of the three of them. The other two give better performances, in my opinion.
And for me, and this is one of the things I wrote down I want to talk to you about, was I think Paul Newman is even more enjoyable in this movie and even more watchable and affable.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, about 3/4 in the movie, you realize that this is about Paul Newman and not about Tom Cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like that kind of turn. And and the whole time we're watching this movie, I don't know if you felt this way, is I'm waiting for Tom Cruise and Paul Newman to play against each other. Like, that is the culmination of everything I want in this movie while I'm watching it, is to see them play each other. And I think it's really interesting that in most modern movies, or most movies, you'd have these two characters who are playing each other, and that they would be the last two people at the tournament, right? So it'd be the final game of the tournament would be these two people, and that's how you would resolve it. And I thought it was very interesting that this happened early on in the tournament.
Yeah, it subverts your expectations,
It was
for sure.
very cool, very cool. Yeah. And then, like, and then when Tom Cruise came to the hotel room to give him the money, dude,
Did you see that?
Awesome.
So you didn't see that coming?
No,
okay, yeah, that's
that
good.
was
Yeah,
so cool.
That's a good.
That was a very good surprise, because you had that. Paul Newman was like playing it very cool because he's trying to play reserve, but then he steps outside, he's like, and then he's like super happy, and he gets to his hotel room, and all of a sudden Tom Cruise knocks, and he's like, boom. He's like, I threw the match. I bet against myself. I was like, oh my god, I did not see that coming at all. That was awesome. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. So, I like the movie. I think when he makes the decision because basically he takes Vincent and his girlfriend on the road, and I can't even think of her name right now, her character's name, but he takes Vincent.
Sarah. No, Sarah's the other one.
Sarah's the other one. Well, he takes Vincent and his girl on the road, and he's trying to teach him the ways of the con and the ways to do this thing. And Vincent is just so hard-headed, much like Eddie was when he was younger.
I think even more so.
He's really kind of dumb. But I mean, he is. I mean, I think he's dumber than Eddie ever was, even when Eddie was young. But he doesn't want he loves to play. He's very sure of himself. He doesn't want to throw matches.
Tom Cruise is not sure of himself. I think he's super self-conscious. This is the reason why he won't throw matches.
Yeah, but I mean, he's sure of his abilities. I mean, he knows he's a great pool player, right? I mean, he's cocksure or whatever. He definitely, he may lack self-esteem or whatever, and he certainly has jealousy issues, as we see whenever they try and play the con where Eddie,
two strangers
and the girl, two brothers and a stranger, or something like that. When he gets
4 weddings and a funeral.
4 weddings and a funeral. He gets very, very upset about that. But over time, Vincent finally sort of starts to learn the ways of the con a little bit. Sometimes he has to be told, like he's playing the one guy Grady Seasons, and he keeps winning, and finally she has to come over to him and says, if you win one more match, you're going to be humping your fist or something like that for a long time. And so he's like, oh shit, I better start losing or whatever. I mean, sometimes he has to be led by the hand in order to do these things. He screws things up by playing Moselle. He goes back to the pool hall. He plays Moselle, and the real guy that they were wanting for him to play, to drop thousands, is like, that kid's too hot, and leaves. So he blows things just as much as he does things right.
Well, I think in the movie, he doesn't learn his lesson until Eddie drops him. Yeah. And then they use those games again, and when he sees him again at the tournament, that's when he's kind of learned his lesson and learned how to do it. So I feel like the whole time Eddie was trying to drag him along, trying to beat him into submission, and the only way Vincent was going to learn was by Eddie just leaving and him having to learn the ropes on his own.
And he even says that. He says, I've taught you basically all that I can teach you. But also, at the same time, you could tell Eddie's getting back into playing, because he says, oh, mind if I take the Balabushka? He goes up there. He's enjoying himself, but he gets conned by Forrest Whitaker and Forrest Whitaker's lazy eye.
So this is the interesting thing that I wanted to bring up with this was, So in the movie, Eddie says that he really hasn't been playing for 25 years.
Yeah.
Basically, around the time that The Hustler came out, he kind of quit playing.
Well, because Bert tells him at the end of The Hustler, don't ever walk into a big time pool hall again.
Yeah.
So I think it's over before it began for him. Yeah.
So, and then he talks about constantly how he can't see anymore. He's like, I'm blind, and then he gets his glasses.
In that weird scene where he emerges from the pool and it just kind of fades to him looking through the.
So
that's a strange cut to me.
Yeah,
strange
I agree.
Dissolve.
But for me, I never really thought I got the opportunity to see him be bad at pool, and I wanted to see. And we were kind of talking about earlier about like preferences and storytelling and all that kind of stuff. And I really wish we had the opportunity to kind of see him be bad at pool, because I felt like, part of his arc was getting the glasses and getting his game back.
Yeah.
He got his groove back, basically. Eddie did. And I wish that when we saw him play, because when we saw him play pool without his glasses on, like he's playing against, like when he got the babushka, not that
Balabushka,
Balabushka, and when he was playing against Eddie, he was good. Like I could not tell if I can't tell if he got better with glasses or not, and I wish that was more established.
I felt like the whole him getting glasses was completely unnecessary in the movie, because he clearly doesn't need them. I don't mind not seeing him be bad at pool, because I just think he has enough natural talent. It's like riding a bike to him; he just never really forgets how. But I feel like the whole like I need glasses and now I got glasses and all. I don't get that at all. I was gonna say.
Because I want to jump on. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I thought one of the reasons why he gave up pool was because his eyesight was going bad, and I didn't remember that line from The Hustler very well.
Yeah.
So that could feed into it. But I thought one of the reasons why he gave it up was his eyesight was going out, and I wish we had the opportunity to kind of see him be really bad, and so when you see him get good for the tournament, it doesn't come out, and you can see, oh, that's why he needed glasses.
Yeah. Oh, my corrective lenses finally helped me win. No. The big turning point in the movie, as you said, is when he decides to say, hey, you know what? You guys just keep going on the road. You can get to Atlantic City. I'm done. I've taught you everything that I can. I don't necessarily like that turn of events. I understand why they did it, because then it makes it all about him kind of rediscovering pool on his own. Then he gets to, because if he doesn't do that, then the rest of the movie is he just goes with him to Atlantic City and there's continued coaching. I don't know how the movie would have gone had it gone that way, but I don't want to say I would prefer it to have gone that way. But when he does abandon him and then kind of strike out on his own, I don't like that as much as him just sticking with Tom Cruise. And I don't know exactly why I feel that way. I just do.
That's interesting, because for me, I like that because
it gives them the opportunity to play themselves.
We got rid of Tom Cruise. We got rid of Vincent. Because because it was interesting. Because when I was watching this movie, you get your title credits, and then I'm like, I thought Tom Cruise was the main character, was the protagonist of this movie, and then I saw Paul Newman's name come up first in the title sequence. I'm like, that's interesting. I go, well, maybe it's because he's such an established actor. They decided to put him before Tom Cruise and give him top billing. But then the whole time it felt like almost like a two-hander, and it almost felt like it was Tom Cruise's movie. And I was trying to remember scenes where we get just Tom Cruise and no Fast Eddie, and you have it at the kids store, I guess, where he's working, the Toys R Us,
Child World,
or something like that. But I feel like it's Tom Cruise's movie. But like I said, when he kicks Tom Cruise to the curb, when he kicks Vincent to the curb, and it becomes Fast Eddie's movie again, I like the movie so much. I like the movie that much more because that's the character I'm the most interested in seeing. Yeah. And maybe it's because we watched these two movies together, and I'm more expecting to see a continuation of his story. But that's why that turn didn't really affect me that much, because I'm like, oh, cool, this is actually what I've been wanting to see the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see Paul Newman more than I want to see Tom Cruise or Vincent. But I don't know. I kind of wonder what the movie would be like if they didn't do that, if they didn't kind of diverge like that, and he did just go ahead and continue coaching him until they get to Atlantic City, and what kind of happens there. But that's a what if that it's kind of pointless, I guess. And the movie's just fine the way it is. Yeah,
and I was thinking more like, would it be also in the kind of what scenario? What if it was more like a Karate Kid thing, where you kind of, these two people are antagonists, and you're kind of waiting for them to build up and go against each other.
And Vincent sweeps the leg of Paul Newman, and
exactly.
he falls down.
He has to get a new hip.
No mercy. So
You're saying they played 9-ball in this?
yes, they play 9-ball, and I think whereas in the Hustler they play straight pool. Not a lot of people. I mean, straight pool's just not played a lot. I think there's tournaments and stuff, but you're not going to walk into your local pool hall and see guys playing straight pool. For one thing, you see him in the Hustler moving the little beads or whatever over to tally up points and all that stuff. I've never seen anything like that in any of the pool halls that I've ever been in. So otherwise, you got to keep track of a lot of points. 9-ball is what? What?
It's just you just made something from the Hustler make sense to me.
Oh, okay.
Because he had this. I was wondering what he was doing with the pull cue, like above, and then he kept on yelling 125, and I'm like, okay, 125. What does that mean?
So 125, I think is probably what they were playing to, right? Yeah. There you go. It all makes sense now. It all makes sense. No, this
we don't
entire
do any
movie,
research before
this entire movie is all 9-ball, and I think that most people are familiar with 9-ball. Martin Scorsese himself actually explains kind of how to play 9-ball at the beginning of the film. That's Martin Scorsese.
I was hoping that was I didn't know whose voice that was, but I was hoping it was the guy who did the Hard 8 intro. I can't think of his name right now. The magician, Ricky J.
No, it's Scorsese that explains how to play 9-ball at the beginning.
I'm all about Ricky J's intros for movies, so more of those make me happy.
I like Ricky J. But 9-ball is pretty simple. I mean, you only have the first 9 balls, nine object balls. You have the first 9 object balls. You break. If the 9 goes in at any time, as long as you are hitting the object ball that you're supposed to hit first, which you hit them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If the 9 ball goes in at any time, you win. A lot of people like to play 9-ball because it's fast. It's much faster than 8-ball, and certainly much faster than a game like straight pool, which can take forever. So that's what they're playing in this movie. Can't even think of what are we talking about? Movies. Yeah, that's it. Movies.
What's this podcast about again?
I don't know what this is about. But we kind of alluded to this the last time because we were talking about Willie Mosconi is in The Hustler. There's a few professional pool players in this movie. One of the guys, I didn't list them all or anything, but I know the guy playing Duke. That's the first guy that Paul Newman, I think, beats at the 9-ball tournament is a guy named Steve Miserak. And I love the fact that after he gets beat, he's like, I didn't deserve that. And he's like, yeah, you did. I love that. Also, Martin Scorsese appears again in Atlantic City walking his little dog across the screen. And when Paul Newman decides to forfeit and get out of the tournament, he goes and shakes a few people's hands as he's leaving. One of the guys that he shakes his hand is Martin Scorsese's dad.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, little cameo there for you. Robbie Robertson did the soundtrack. He's worked with Martin Scorsese several times. They met when they were doing probably The Last Waltz, I would assume, which was all about the band's last concert, which that was the band was the band that Robbie Robertson was in. But he's continued to work with him. He worked with him on The Irishman, actually, on Netflix. So they've had a working relationship for a number of years. Fun stuff. Oh, and Iggy Pop has a cameo.
Yeah.
Skinny Iggy Pop.
Iggy Pop,
is one of the guys that Vincent beats when he's on the road. You were saying earlier about Tom Cruise. A lot of people hate Tom Cruise, and I was thinking about that as I was watching this film. I think a lot of people can't separate Tom Cruise's personal life from his acting life.
Yeah.
I am like you. I like Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise is a gifted actor. But yes, a lot of people think he's a weird guy, jumping on couches, his association with Scientology, whatever. All that stuff in his personal life. I don't care about that. I care about what he's doing on the screen. And I think on the screen, the majority of the time, I think he does a pretty fine job. Most of the time.
With you on that.
He's done, like Magnolia and some performances like that. I think he's great. I mean, I don't. He's not my favorite actor, but I think he is a solid actor, and I think he actually, for the most part, tries to play different characters whenever he's in films. So as long as I think you separate whatever you feel about him outside of what you see him doing on the screen, I think it's a no-brainer that he's a gifted actor. I would say.
So I will say this this has got me excited to see some more Scorsese movies. Even though he says that he doesn't like it, like all the stuff I've read about it was he kind of is not a fan of that work, which worries me a little bit. But I thought it was I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was I'm gonna watch it again. Cool. Maybe not soon, but I look forward to seeing it again.
I am very pleased. I can't tell you how pleased I am that you liked both The Hustler and The Color of Money. Again, I think it is a little odd to like The Color of Money more than The Hustler, but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that's a good problem to have, certainly. But yeah, I mean, if this makes you edge a little closer to acceptance of Martin Scorsese and acceptance of Martin Scorsese's films, I think that's a good thing. One thing that I said at the beginning was that this came out a quarter century after the first film, and just for fun, I tried to kind of look some of this up on the internet, but I was thinking about sequels, the first sequel to a film that came out 20 years or more after the first film. So, for example, Mad Max Fury Road doesn't count because, yes, Fury Road came out something 30 plus years after Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. It has to be the very first sequel to the original film.
Blade Runner 2049 is probably one.
Blade Runner 2049 fits that description perfectly. Yeah. Yes, so it came out over 20 years after Blade Runner. So that's one that I've got on here. Obviously, Color of Money to The Hustler. Psycho 2 came out, I think, 22 years after the original Psycho.
I remember when Blade Runner 2049 came out, I looked up a list of the longest time in between sequels.
But I bet that list included things like Mad Max Fury Road and stuff, where they included the third or fourth film in a franchise. Because I saw plenty of that. Rambo, the one from 2008, fits that description because it came out something like 20 years after Rambo 3 in 1988 and stuff like that. I was just looking for stuff. Trainspotting 2 fits that description. Tron Legacy fits that description.
Yeah, Tron Legacy.
Tron Legacy, and one of the films that is on my list that we will talk about. That's Independence Day, and Independence Day Resurrection or whatever it is came out. I think exactly 20 years after. So I thought that was kind of there's probably more, but those are kind of the ones that I was looking at. Just again, I mean, there's no real. I don't really have any tie-in to that other than it. Just like Color of Money, it came out at least 20 years after. I will say, out of all of those, of course, you like Blade Runner 2049 more than I did.
I do.
I think we both somewhat like Blade Runner, at least visually, if nothing else.
Yes.
I think Psycho 2 is a worthy follow-up to Psycho. It's not the classic that the original film is, but it's pretty darn good. I can't comment on the Independence Day stuff. Tron Legacy, how do you feel about Tron Legacy?
I like Tron Legacy better than Tron, but it's not a good movie. Tron Legacy has a lot of good things going for it. The thing that's not good is the story. And I kind of have my own head canon, not really head canon. I kind of have my own preferences on how I wish that story was told. And we'll get into that right now. So this, I don't want to take too much time, but real briefly, I thought, so when I was watching Tron Legacy and I was kind of underwhelmed by the story, I was thinking, what's interesting? What do we have in computers now that we don't really had in computers in the 80s? Mm-hmm. And I think networking and the internet is interesting. And I thought it would be a much more interesting movie if, Clue and Tron Legacy was trying to get his computer connected to the internet so they can spread like a virus. And I think maybe they were trying to set up that was going to happen maybe in a sequel to Tron Legacy. But I think that would have made a much more interesting movie than what we got. Other than that, the visual stylings, the music, everything else in that movie is awesome. It's just the story kind of leaves me a little.
I honestly don't remember a lot about it. I remember liking it more than the original Tron, but that's not hard to do because I think the original Tron is a very bad movie.
Yeah,
honestly.
I can't stand the original Tron.
Yeah,
but I will put on Tron Legacy once in a blue moon.
The soundtrack alone is pretty killer. Awesome. The Daft Punk soundtrack is pretty killer. Yeah. All right, so we'll talk about possibly sequels and everything another time. Let's do the viewer question.
All right, so now for the viewer question of the week. And the viewer question is, what is your favorite SNL movie based on a character or skit from Saturday Night Live?
Saturday Night Live.
And I know I'm not a big SNL, the TV show, fan. I know a lot of it, the stuff that kind of bubbles up to pop culture and that becomes part of the zeitgeist. I like and I enjoy
stuff like that. Wayne's
or like the Blue Oyster Cult stuff. That really makes it really big, right? Gotcha. The David S. Pumpkins, I can dig that, but I don't watch the show weekly, and I think you still do.
I do, yeah. I'm not quite sure why. Every once in a while there's a diamond in the rough. Yeah. But yes, most of the time it's a lot of forgettable sketches that aren't very funny, and some of the cast members are just atrocious. Yeah. I'm not going to say who they are. I don't want to go down that road. But
or is one of them in the Ghostbusters reboot?
I don't. Who's in the Ghostbusters reboot? I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe. Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. So, anyways, SNL movie.
All right. I'm going first here.
Yeah, your favorite one.
All right. So and I don't know what your pick is. We didn't discuss this beforehand or anything like that. I don't want to jump on you or on your picks.
You think we're gonna have the same pick?
I know for a fact we're not going to have the same pick, but I was going to say I think a lot of people when you talk about SNL films that actually made successful good movies, you cannot have this conversation without talking about the Wayne's World movies because I think the Wayne's World movies are great. That is not my pick. Neither one of those is my pick, although those are solid picks if that winds up being one of your picks. This film surprised the hell out of me, mainly because the sketches I never thought were funny on Saturday Night Live. Every time they would do a sketch of this on Saturday Night Live, I thought it was stupid. I don't remember a single one thinking that it was funny. So when I saw the movie, yes, admittedly I saw it with low expectations, but I still thought it was hilarious. And many people that I talk to feel the same. Not you. But many people that I talk to feel the same way about it. And
the opposite of kicking and screaming.
It is MacGruber with Will Forte as MacGruber. I thought that the sketches, yes. I thought the sketches on SNL were atrocious. I think the movie is hilarious. It is so out there. I mean, obviously it's R-rated. It's not tame like the sketches were on SNL. But I just love practically everything about that movie. I think it's hilarious.
So for me, MacGruber falls into what I call the the Kung Pao Enter the Fist category of movies, which is
way better.
Which is movies that aren't funny when you watch them, but they're funny when you talk about them.
No.
So with this movie, when he's talking about making the list of like the guy that I think ran him over or whatever, he got the license plate down. Like
I think he made fun of his car or something.
Yeah. So for me, when I was watching the movie, like it wasn't funny at all. But in talking to you and some of our other friends about that and reliving that scene, then it's funny. But I'm sure if I watch it again, it's not going to be funny.
Okay. Well, agree to disagree.
That's my Kung.
Well, and I will say that I think you sent me a link saying that they might turn that into a TV show. I'm against that. Like because honestly, I think that's probably going to take it too far. It's probably going to wind up being as dumb as the sketches were on SNL. I think just the standalone movie is fine, and I'm content with that. Anyway, what's your pick?
So this movie, it's a classic.
All right.
Came out in the 90s, I think.
Okay.
Has Chris Farley.
Okay.
It also has Dan Aykroyd. I love The Coneheads. Yes. The Coneheads is an awesome movie. That is Wayne's World's really good, but I think The Coneheads ranks up as my favorite movie based on an SNL skit.
I have seen it, but it has been so long ago, I don't remember jack. I probably need to watch it again because I can't agree or disagree. I honestly don't remember what I felt about Coneheads when I saw it.
I think Coneheads, and actually, I saw the Coneheads because it was playing on cable all the time. And I don't think I've ever seen a Coneheads sketch, like an SNL sketch of the Coneheads.
Honestly, most of them that I've seen, I don't think were all that funny.
But I've seen the movie, and I really like the movie, and I think the movie has a lot of heart, so that's my favorite SNL movie.
Yeah, I mean, so when you said it has Chris Farley, I was like, Black Sheep and Tommy Boy aren't SNL sketches.
Well, but he's also in Wayne's World.
Well, but a very small part.
But I was trying to make you think I was going to say Wayne's World.
No, I honestly I couldn't even think of what you were because I totally forgot about Coneheads. I couldn't.
Coneheads is a great movie.
So Wayne's World would probably be your runner-up or your
Wayne's World's up there.
Something like that. It'd probably be mine too. I mean, I think Wayne's World 2 are really, really great.
I have a really funny story about Wayne's World 2. We'll talk about some other time.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. Interesting. All right. Well, that was our week's episode where we talked about Color of Money. Balls. Stay tuned next week because we're going to pick a movie from Andy's list that he hasn't seen. And that movie is going to be 300.
Newer movie. Within the last 15 years.
And with that, we're going to pair it with Sin City because they're both adaptations of Frank Miller graphic novels.
Yeah. Sorry if you thought we were going to do RoboCop 2 or 3. Sorry to disappoint you. Sin City.
So stay tuned for 300 and Sin City. Like us, subscribe. realshame@gmail.com is our email address. Real Shame on YouTube. Real Shame on your podcast app. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, guys.
Bye.